Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let me get that music off. All right, I have a few housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar is being recorded and the recording link will be emailed to all attendees. This presentation is an educational service by Alcorn Immigration Law, and the information discussed should not be construed as legal advice for any specific action and is overview only. Please be sure to consult a knowledgeable professional with assistance for your particular issue. And lastly, please submit any questions you may have using Zoom's Q&A function below and do so anonymously. Because these questions are shared publicly, so please do not share any sensitive or personal information. And now it is my pleasure to introduce you to our CEO and founder, Sophie Alcorn, our expert immigration attorneys, Nadia Zaidi and Linda Haggerty, as well as Daniel Goldman, the CEO and co-founder of Open Avenues Foundation.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Hi, and welcome everybody to today's Alcorn Immigration Law webinar hosted in conjunction with Open Avenues. Not selected in the H-1B lottery. Now what? And we have so much information to share with you today, and there's a lot of questions that I know you all have. So we're going to do our best to get through everything. We're going to end at the hour, and we're going to try to reserve 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. But if you know you already have a question, you're welcome to put it in the Q&A panel now. And then we're happy to address those throughout, and we'll do our best to reserve time at the end as well. So thank you so much, and let's get started, and we'll make our intro section brief because we've got a lot to cover. Hi, I'm Sophie. I'm the founder of Alcorn Immigration Law. I write the TechCrunch column, Dear Sophie, and I'm a board certified immigration law specialist in immigration and nationality law by the State Bar of California Board of Legal Specialization. And I'm so excited to be joined by my amazing colleagues here today. Nadia Zaidi, a true expert in startup founder and extraordinary ability and national interest immigration with a focus on O1As, EB1As, and EB2 NIWs. She was featured in Forbes as a top startup immigration attorney in the world for US immigration. It's always great to have you here, Nadia. And our amazing colleague, Linda Haggerty, our Chief Legal Officer at Alcorn, over 2 decades of business immigration experience, supporting companies of a variety of sizes to help their whole foreign national teams and workforce in conjunction with HR and management. Thank you so much for being here today, Linda.
Thank you for having me.
Our mission is to overcome borders, expand opportunity, and connect the world by practicing compassionate, visionary, and rigorous immigration law in service of the betterment of humanity. Our goal is to help you win as quickly as possible using whatever creative legal solutions we can find to help you based on your specific personal situation and your goals. And we help both companies help their employees and also immigrants who are doing their immigration on their own. And so we'll be covering both of those today. We're part of this Silicon Valley network. We're happy to leverage it for our clients and their teams. One of the opportunities we have right now is nomination to Founders Network, which is an association of individuals that is selective and can be useful for some of the processes we might talk about. So for things like that, please reach out to us, and we'll also have more information about how you can become our client in today's webinar. I'm really, really proud about our success rates. Immigration has been super tumultuous since I started the firm at the end of the Obama administration, at the beginning of the Trump administration. We had COVID, we had the Great Resignation, now we have the tech layoffs. So there's always something political or economic happening in immigration law. And I'm just so thrilled about our stellar success rates. I think that our numbers are actually even better since when we got the data for this slide, because we have been on a path of continuous improvement as our law firm has grown to help more and more people. Okay, so real quick, you're all here because you probably think you want a visa. You might know that one day you want a green card, or you might want to sponsor your employees for green cards. A green card is permanent residence. It's a lifetime status, and you get the card in usually a 10-year issuance at a time. And if you ever want to become a citizen, you have to have a green card first. We're primarily going to be talking about visas today. Visas for people who are already inside the US and their time is running out on their prior status, like L1 or OPT. And we're also going to be talking about visas for people who have never set foot in the United States before, never had ESTA, never had a visitor visa. You're in Tanzania right now, and you got a job offer and didn't get selected in the H-1B lottery. Well, how can you come here for the first time? That's encompassed in what we'll be talking about today. And we'll talk a little bit about green cards for people who might have some time runway in the US as an alternative. For most of our people, most of our beneficiary registrants in the H-1B lottery that were petitioned for by their US companies that have offered them a future role, many of them are somewhere on the F1 international student journey. There's 1 million international students in the US at any given time. And depending on your degree and your school and your major and your department and your DSO and your professors, it's a very unique thing, but there are these government programs to get work experience before or after you graduate, including CPT, OPT, STEM OPT. And the hope for many is to be selected in this H-1B lottery because it makes it easy, and then to go on to benefit from an employment-sponsored green card process. But we're going to be talking about a lot of other options that exist too. For those who just joined, we were speculating, and so far, Nadia, Linda, and I have seen any official USCIS statistics on how many registrants there were this year, but there's 85,000 new H-1Bs available each year. Last year, there were 483,000 registrants. And Linda, what were you saying the speculation is?
Between 600 and 700,000 registrations.
So it's another record-breaking number. And there's talk of the registration fee being increased above the $10 that it was this year by the government. So maybe that will curb it slightly in future years. But I think we just have to operate in a world where, it's like a cherry on top if you happen to get selected for an H-1B, but you can't plan your life or your workforce on it. So that's why we're here. Let's explore all the other ways. There are several green card pathways as well. We'll talk about that briefly at the end, but let's just dive into it because we have a lot to cover. So we'll start with you, Nadia, and this whole thing about extraordinary ability. What is an O1 and who might be able to qualify?
Yeah, so the Extraordinary Ability Visa is the O1, and it's, as you mentioned before, it's a non-immigrant visa. It's initially issued for 3 years. It's great because there's no lottery and there's no specific time of the year where you have to apply. Like the H-1B, you can only apply in March of every year. The O1 can be applied for any time as long as you qualify for it. And the qualification.
So, yeah, like who qualifies? Because there's a lot of fear about this, and there's a lot of self-bereavement. There's a lot of anxiety. A lot of PTSD is caused by this visa. It doesn't have to be that way. Who are some of the types of people that might even want to think about trying this?
Yeah, so I mean, the easy occupations or fields are those that are sometimes in research, or the field where you are required to publish articles and to maybe do research that is cited by other people. You have to show that you've reached a level of accomplishment in your field.
So if you have gone on a standard academic track, this could be for you.
Yes.
That's not all, of course, but if you got, so you're saying like if you got a PhD or a postdoc and you published a lot, that's a it's a pretty great avenue to explore, right? And so companies wanting to hire those individuals could help them get an O1 as well.
That's right. That's right. And you have to meet 3 of the criteria, and there's 10
Okay.
criteria. So publications is one of them.
Yeah.
And then do you want me to touch a little bit on some of the others?
Well, I think everybody who isn't a PhD might be a little apprehensive right now. So who are some of the other groups of people that might want to consider the O1? And let me just check the next slide. Yeah. Okay.
Of course. So awards is something that people see and they think of the Pulitzer Prize or a really well-known national award. You do need to have some sort of award that's national or international, but if you're an entrepreneur and you have participated in an accelerator where you were selected from a batch or a group of other people, and you were selected and you were given a certain amount of funding, we have successfully argued that that's a type of award and a type of membership, actually, because you're being selected from a big group of other people.
So I think there's like 4 groups of people who we tend to help with O1s, but if you aren't in one of these buckets, but you think you did something that might be cool, please tell us anyway, because we can get really creative about this. It's like people with an academic research background, even if they're going into private industry now,
Right.
Startup founders who have created a product and they're growing this company. We've also had some like chief product officers or other kind of like growth hackers or other kind of operational roles in startups work, because what you're doing is so instrumental to the growth of the company and a disruptive technology, it can work. And then also there's the O1B variation for artists. And so we have gotten several UX, UI designers or other types of designers into that. So that's just typically who we help. But
yeah,
can you run us through the criteria? Because it could be for any field in business or science or engineering, really.
Right, exactly. So a lot of people come to us and say, well, I'm an entrepreneur, but everybody has a niche field that they have a focus on. So you might be a software developer, as you said, a UX, UI designer, somebody who is starting a business, but you have an area of specialization where you have had some achievements that would fill the criteria. So the awards I sort of touched on, accelerators are helpful for that. If it's a national or international award or prize, so there's some people that won a entrepreneur prize in Ireland or Australia, where they were the top 20 startup young entrepreneurs. Those types of awards have also worked in the past. And then there's press, and press is sort of related because sometimes you have these achievements where you're like Forbes 30 under 30, and then you get a ton of press from that and you're written about, and it doesn't have to be in the New York Times. It doesn't have to be in Fast Company. It can be in other lesser known media platforms, as long as you're able to provide some sort of circulation information that there's more than your mom and your dad are reading that media platform. And that could also work for the press.
So awards, articles about you.
And then we talked a little bit about publications. So
articles you've written.
Exactly. And you don't have to be a researcher or scientist. You can
Those don't have to be peer-reviewed first author publications in research journals.
Right. Like your TechCrunch articles, Sophie, those would
Oh, and that's a really good point. I will mention that right here. TechCrunch is interested in publishing first-person founder narratives of like how I solved this problem or how I overcame this, or like my startup experience and what I learned from it. And so if you want to try to get something published in TechCrunch, I can send those types of things to my editor. So
yeah,
that's something, you know, worth following up about separately from this webinar with me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're trying to show that you're a thought leader and expert in your field. So anything written where your expertise is being sought out is helpful.
Yeah. And then just a few more, the other categories are like associations that are hard to get into, judge of professional competitions, creating something. It could be patented, it doesn't have to be. It could be just like disrupting the field with the technology, and earning a lot of money. So even a safe note, we can tell a story about how what you created is worth something with a safe note.
Right, exactly. And for salary, if you're wondering, we compare it to the Department of Labor salary survey. We also compare it to other salary surveys in the United States. They want to see the comparable salaries in the United States to
Yeah.
show that you are earning more than what's average.
So just to bring it back, and we're going to kind of go through all these a little bit rapid fire, and then we'll focus for the questions on what people want to know more about. But so if somebody didn't get selected in the H-1B lottery, and if you're working for a company in people ops or HR, and you're like, okay, how do I keep this critical person in the US after their OPT ends? Definitely, if they have some sort of advanced degree, let's explore an O1. If they're part of your founding team, let's explore the O1. If there's in some sort of critical management or leadership role, let's explore the O1. And also, if you're a beneficiary and your company that you were working for didn't get selected, and maybe they're not an Alcorn client and they're just like, okay, you're done. You know, it's worth considering the O1 as well if you ever want to be a startup founder, or you know, even, and something I'll mention here is we can set it up with an agent, and then you can have an itinerary of services. So you don't even have to work at a single company like an H-1B if we set it up that way from the beginning. So founders can be advisors and consultants and have multiple streams of income legally on an O1 if we set it up in a certain way.
That's right.
Okay, we got a lot to cover. So that's the O1. Linda, what's an L1 and who can qualify? Go.
All right. So an L1 is an intercompany transferee, and really this visa category is for foreign nationals that work abroad for 1 year for an entity, a foreign entity that has a related US entity. So this visa allows that individual to transfer after satisfying that 1 year of employment abroad. They can be transferred to the US to work in a managerial or specialized knowledge capacity. It can also be used for new offices. So you could have a foreign entity created and you work there for a year, you are creating a new US office, a startup. There is availability to transfer in and actually get that office going as a new office L1.
So let's take this in two sections then.
Sure.
Let's say you're already part of a, well, okay, I think this is probably most of our clients. They're like, well, we have a lot of international contractors through a global PEO service like Deal or Remote. Can we just transfer them here now on an L1?
Well, there's a lot of, that's a little bit of a tricky transfer.
I think the answer is no, but we'll work with
Yeah,
Remote
I
and
mean,
Deal to try
there
to
are-
figure it out, but it's very complicated.
Yes.
Okay.
I would say there's some rare exceptions when you can create that employee-employer relationship with a contractor.
But essentially you need a legal entity, not just some, so like some random contractor
exactly.
that you're
Yes,
Venmoing money to, it's not going to work. What type of entity would be very strong? Like if a company already has offices in other countries, what would be like a very strong type of setup?
So let's say that the company was, established abroad and had one or more offices, and then they opened up a US office, and there's maybe a subsidiary parent subsidiary relationship or affiliate relationship. There has to be more than 50% ownership between the entities to show there's that connection. Really, if the foreign entity has, let's say, 10 employees or more, that's going to help us to show that the company's actively doing business.
Okay.
That's really what we'd be looking for.
So we work with a lot of companies from SwissNext and the German Accelerator and Italian Innovate. And so they're all helping international, like European startups that have raised in Europe to do soft landing and have US market access and raise from VCs here. So they can all transfer people who have worked for the Italian entity for a year to the US, even after just opening the US entity.
Mm-hmm.
But probably a lot of our clients that were able to do the H-1B registration process, they're already set up in America. They already have employees here. So if this is like the only option, or they were thinking about setting up a Brazil office anyway, what do they need to do from this point forward if they want to be able to use an L1 sometime in the future?
Well, it's really important to satisfy that 1 year of employment abroad. So the individual would actually have to leave the US, go work in Brazil or wherever that foreign office is for 1 full year. And time they spend in the US during that 1 year is going to count against that 1 year clock. So it's really important that they're physically outside the US to get that 1 year of employment.
And being a normal employee on payroll, as normal and vanilla of an employment setup as possible, the better, because that is a lot more palatable evidence. Instead of like, oh, well, we cut him checks, and as a director, we can get a letter from the CFO saying he was employed. It's much better to just be able to show paychecks. And that's what Google does, and a lot of big tech companies have offices where they can just move people around. Okay. And we've even had like Stanford MBAs that were working for a multinational just prior. They do their 2-year degree, and then on OPT, that 1 year of employment is still within the last 3 years, and they're able to just switch to an L1 from an F1 while they're here. So it depends, but if you're thinking of having multinational presence, and that's essential for your business growth, definitely utilize the immigration options that come with it, with the L1. All right. Let's just spend a minute on this, Linda.
Sure.
What's J1 and who should consider it?
Yeah, so J1 is really intended for exchange visitors that are coming to the US temporarily to either work in like an intern, researcher, or trainee capacity.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have a home residence requirement of 2 years where you must return back to your home country. To satisfy it. We can work around getting a waiver, but it's really not a long-term pathway to other visas typically.
This is also what people come on for, like working at ski resorts or being in a Trump hotel or something. And so you just have to keep in mind that the programs are very strict. They will lose their license if people are trying to like game this system to come here. And it's a cool option too, because your spouse can work and you can work. There's no lottery, it's nice, but they really want people who definitely plan to go home and return their knowledge and skills to their home country at the end of this duration. So you have to be very careful. All righty. Slides are coming slowly, and I love the questions coming in, and we're gonna, an A visa. Yeah, we can chat about all of these. Nadia, what is an E1? What is an E2? And do you have to work for 1 out of the last 3 years abroad to qualify for one of those?
You do not. So we have people who we've helped in the past who didn't get selected in the H-1B lottery, and they had a family business, let's say, where they were looking to start something in the US. So they invested in a new company that they're starting.
And this, yes, this could be like an early stage technology startup that builds software, but it could be cosmetics, it could be ice cream, it could be a lot of types of things.
Yeah. The key here is that we ideally want you to spend at least $100,000. And so sometimes a challenge is, well, how do we spend that money? All we need to start this company is our laptop, and we don't. So that's why if you're starting a company where you need inventory, or you need to purchase a technology, or you need to get it up and running and can spend that money,
or you need US employees or
right.
salespeople.
Exactly. The other thing I really wanted to mention about this is that the company you start should be at least 51% owned by a national of a treaty country. And so there's a list of countries that the US has a treaty of trade with.
What are the biggest countries not on the list?
China and India.
And Brazil.
And Brazil.
So,
right.
But if you are an Indian person who immigrated to Canada and you're getting Canadian citizenship, then you could get an E2 as a Canadian citizen.
Right, exactly.
And the other option, E1, we see it less frequently. It's more for companies that have been doing business for, like a year or two, and you can already show a lot of commerce between the US and the home country.
Right.
but a lot of startups can qualify for this, especially in the model I was mentioning, where like the New Zealand Accelerator is going to fund you to come to San Francisco.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
ways to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, one challenge we've seen is that if you plan on raising money in the US and then diluting that treaty country ownership, then that is what people shy away from in those scenarios.
But usually by the time you're raising $40 million and you're worried about your home country equity on your cap table diluting across all investors that much, you probably can get an O1.
Right, exactly. Or we
So
might
you
have
can do it
maybe
for a
had a
little bit
green
of time.
card going in the background, so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Great. And you could be in the US, there's no lottery. But I will say that with an E2, it's better to go to get your visa from your home country, because they don't care what USCIS does. They redo all the work at the consulates.
That's right.
Ha ha ha, international entrepreneur parole. Nadia, do we still do these for people?
I mean, we can do them for people, but we have successfully pivoted to the O1 for almost everybody we tried to do this for.
Yeah. So this was a really exciting thing for founders over the last 3 years, but it really fizzled out, and it's very disappointing. And I was so gung-ho about this because I thought it would create a way for thousands of people to come here. It exists, it does. The government just updated a new website on what type of evidence they like to see, which is lovely. But the fact remains that it was taking over a year for our clients to get an answer, and there's no premium processing.
That's correct.
Yes. So it's sort of just fizzled out. It's going to be faster for you to become qualified for an O1 as a startup founder,
Right.
starting from nothing, than it will be to file for international entrepreneur parole. So
Yeah, exactly.
keep that in mind.
Exactly. I mean, we have someone who might even be pivoting to an L1 because they've been working for their foreign, subsidiary.
Yeah, somebody else got an O1, somebody else got married to an American. Like, life moves on, and startups don't wait, and investors don't wait. Life doesn't wait. So hopefully they'll speed that up. We get asked for feedback often on how the program can improve, and so we're constantly telling them.
Yeah.
Okay. Linda, what are the countries that to take note of if your employees are citizens of them?
Yeah, absolutely. So these are categories you definitely want to take advantage of if they apply to you. So if you're a citizen of Canada or Mexico, then you can apply for the TN, which is a professional work visa category for designated occupations. So for example, we have engineer, accountant, computer systems analyst. Those are some of the occupations that we might look at closely. So if you qualify based on your country of citizenship, it's worth looking into. Generally, you're going to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree that aligns with the TN occupation to be a good fit.
Okay. And once again, you don't have to be born in those countries. You just need a passport from Canada, for example, right?
Exactly. Yep. So citizenship is all you need.
What are the other countries that have special things?
Sure. So there's another category called the H-1B one. So this is a sort of just like an H-1B in a lot of ways. It functions like an H-1B where you have to prove the job as a professional specialty occupation, but it's available for Singaporeans and Chileans. It allows admission for 1 year at each entry. And it can be applied for at the embassy, which is kind of nice. It's a fast way to process a work visa, or you could do it from within the US.
Okay, great. So Mexico, Canada, Chile, Singapore, Australia, and then a lot of Ukrainians have gotten the United for Ukraine humanitarian parole, or TPS. There's always countries that are hotspots. Probably the thing to take note of is there are a lot of Ukrainian software engineers. So if you are employing any of them with humanitarian parole, and they have a work permit, it might be valuable to think about them getting a green card at some point, and maybe the company can help with that process.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when they come over to the US, they can start working right away. And then once they get the work card, I think it's typically valid for 2 years. So we'll see if it gets extended. I mean, that's always the question with the TPS and those kinds of programs is, you really don't know until close to the expiration date whether the government is going to extend the work authorization or extend the status for those individuals.
Yeah, and we'll talk about green cards more in a minute. Okay, Danielle Goldman, please come to the stage. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, let's talk about what you do and what Open Avenues does. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. And for everyone on the call, my name is Danielle Goldman, and I first connected with Sophie. It's been, I think, 3 years now since we first connected. And Sophie and I really bonded over the fact that both of our fathers are immigration attorneys. And when you grow up with an immigration attorney as a father, you really understand the value of so many foreign nationals in the United States and just what these individuals are able to bring to the US. So that's why we got started with Open Avenues, and it's been really nice to be partnered with Alcorn over the last few years.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like a little girl admiring her dad for saving people from around the world. You kind of want to do a lot with your life after that. And you've started Open Avenues. So tell us what Open Avenues does and how you help people.
Yeah, so Open Avenues is a nonprofit. We are on a mission to demonstrate the value that foreign nationals can bring here. And we do this through a program that provides a unique work visa solution for individuals. And these are CAP exempt H-1B work visas. We're a nonprofit that is partnered with universities, and the programming that we run at our partner universities trains the future workforce in STEM and business fields. And all of that is driven by foreign talent. And so that's how we demonstrate what foreign nationals are able to continue to contribute here while creating pathways for individuals to stay on CAP exempt H-1Bs.
Wow, that's amazing. So, okay, so there's a lot of, so who is this relevant for on our call? This is really important for people who do human resources or people ops at startups. And where you're like, oh my God, my key people didn't get selected in the lottery and they're not going to qualify for an O1 soon enough. And we don't have any entities abroad and there's no E2 thing. We got to keep them here. So really important for people in that situation, and also very important just for international individuals who didn't get selected in the lottery, and maybe your employer has never considered this program before, but you can learn about it and then go and educate your company that this is an alternative option.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting just a little bit about CAP exempt organizations and how Open Avenues is.
Let's go through the whole thing. Like, what's the product that you guys are able to provide? And I know it's part of this big multifaceted network of things that helps the US in a lot of ways, but how does a CAP exempt H-1B work?
Yeah, first of all, Open Avenues is not the only CAP exempt organization, but there are 4 types of organizations in the US that Congress has deemed are exempt from this restrictive H-1B lottery, which randomly selects, as we've talked about, 85,000 foreign nationals per year. And the four types of CAP exempt organizations are nonprofit research institutions, government research institutions, universities, and nonprofits affiliated with universities. And if
so
you
beneficiary could just go get a job as a researcher at a university in a lab, and they would not have to go through the H-1B lottery to stay here.
Yep, exactly. And if you work for any of those 4 types of organizations, you don't have to enter this lottery system. It is an alternative to go seek out this type of employment at one of these 4 types of organizations and get sponsored for a CAP exempt H-1B.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So how does it work if an employer wants to work with you to keep somebody in the country who didn't get selected?
So another alternative in the US is that you can work part-time for one of these CAP exempt organizations and have any US employer then also file an H-1B exempt from the CAP. So if you work part-time for a university and you're able to have that university sponsor you for a CAP exempt H-1B, and we're talking 5 to 8 hours per week is what USCIS has confirmed is the minimum amount of time you need to work for one of these 4 types of CAP exempt organizations, then your company, your own company, or your employer that is trying to sponsor you for an H-1B or a work visa can file a full-time H-1B at any time of year. And with premium processing can get a response from these petitions in 15 days or less. So that's really exciting for individuals.
It's amazing. So let's say that somebody was on their last year of STEM OPT and it ends July 15th, and this was their last shot. They were in the lottery 4 times and it didn't work. And July 15th, that means that we could theoretically file by July 1st with premium processing. And we have, 2.5 months to put the H-1B petition together, but then that person would have no interruption in their work authorization, and they would then be in a CAP exempt H-1B status.
Yeah. And, if doing a model where you go find employment at a university for 5 hours per week or find employment at a research institution, you can do that. It might not be as quick as, doing this in 6 to 8 weeks that we're talking about here. But one option that we've built out at Open Avenues Foundation is our Global Talent Fellowship Program. And we've been working with Sophie's firm over the last few years to support individuals in a pretty quick timeline of 6 to 8 weeks to get into our Global Talent Fellowship, which is a 5-hour per week commitment to work with our university partners and within your field of expertise or within a foreign national's field of expertise, whether it's data science or software or marketing or finance, in STEM or in business, we set up the foreign national fellows to work with students and lead career development programming. And we file the CAP exempt H-1Bs for all of our fellows. The process takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get an approval. And then Sophie's firm or your company is able to file the concurrent CAP exempt H-1B immediately after. And you can, as Sophie said, without much of a break in work, really start working for your employer full-time as well.
Yeah. So some of the things that I like people to know about this are you end up with 2 H-1Bs. One of them, the first one, the 5-hour week one, is sponsored by Open Avenues for people who are selected into the Global Talent Fellowship Program. The second one is for full-time work at the company. What is the minimum commitment for Open Avenues for individuals choosing to go that route?
So for anyone interested in the program, first of all, it requires that that company nominate you for our program and partner with Open Avenues. So individuals, unless you're a founder of a company and have a company that's nominating you, must have an employer partner with Open Avenues to really get this fellowship moving. And we contract with the employer. There's a minimum of 6 months in the fellowship. And we file 3-year CAP exempt H-1Bs for our fellows. Awesome.
And okay, and we talked about how the universities, government research. So just so everybody know, you guys qualify as a nonprofit affiliated with universities.
Exactly.
And for people who have never worked with students and don't know how to do that, do you coach them through the process?
We have training, but we definitely look for individuals who have either mentored students in the past, or maybe you are working to mentor peers right now. Have you managed anyone in your career? Have you been a TA in school? We do look for individuals who have some experience working with students or peers, but we do have plenty of training for our fellows who come on board.
And another benefit for companies is that whoever the fellows are training, that's a pipeline of US talent who's then familiar with your company's products and offerings, who you can then recruit from as well.
Exactly.
Here's just a bit on this concurrent employment. Basically, once somebody gets a CAP exempt H-1B from one organization, they're allowed to work at other organizations that are normally CAP subject, which Danielle mentioned. And okay, let's focus here on the eligibility, because I know people really want to know, okay, how do I qualify? What is the next step?
Yep. So as I said, the most important thing here is that the Global Talent Fellowship is not open to individuals to apply for who are looking for employment in the United States. It requires that Open Avenues partner with an employer that has already committed to sponsoring a foreign national for an H-1B and said, we want to find a unique solution or a path forward for you. And so we are looking for individuals who are currently employed at a company willing to sponsor the visa. That's most important. You must also be qualified for an H-1B. So you have to have specifically the most important is you have to have a degree in the field in which you work. That's related, a good specialty occupation in the US. We're looking for at least 2 years of work experience. Your OPT work can be included in that. And at least a bachelor's degree in a STEM or business related field. I worked backwards up that list, but that's really what we're looking for there.
Great. And then everybody, yes, a recording will be shared. Do you care if people are outside or inside the United States?
It's a great question. And we do this for individuals who are outside of the United States. The most common scenario is that a company in the US has been contracting with someone outside of the US. They've proven their value. They've been working with the company for a while and they say, we really want to bring this individual here. And that's when the company can start the CAP exempt H-1B visa process with Open Avenues, and the individual could enter on the Open Avenues visa at any time. And the company could have a concurrent visa ready to file as soon as the individual arrives in the US.
Can you walk us through the financial investment piece of what this ends up being?
Yes, this is very important because the company that nominates a fellow for the program is responsible for the fees of the program. And this program is not for everyone. It is for top talent that companies really feel they want to invest in. So the pricing of the program is an initiation fee of $18,000. And that includes the work that we're doing to get the CAP exempt H-1B visa on the Open Avenues side. We also charge an ongoing fee quarterly once someone's in the US or approved for the visa and transitions to CAP exempt H-1B. And the ongoing fee is $3,800 per quarter, which Open Avenues uses to run educational programming at our partner schools and pay students to complete projects with our foreign nationals and do this training so that companies could potentially access that pipeline, as Sophie was saying, and hire those individuals in the future. So it's an ongoing fee, and individuals exit the program when they either win the lottery the next year or check a few more boxes for an O1 or get a green card approved.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So if employers are interested, their next step is to go to your Open Avenues website, and you're welcome to put that in the chat window, and we're going to share all the resources with everybody by email after the webinar. But essentially, employers need to take the first step by nominating somebody through your website to be a Global Talent Fellow. Great. That was so comprehensive. Thank you so much. And we're going to finish up with our slides so that we can get to all the questions. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
So just a brief note on green cards. Sometimes, as Danielle mentioned, people can exit the H-1B cycle by getting a green card. There are lots of types of green cards. One of my favorite stories was a guy didn't get selected in the H-1B lottery, and his employer literally initiated an EB-1A and an EB-2 NIW and a perm all at the same time, because we were in this period of like immigration uncertainty, and they just had to have this guy here because his postdoc research was essential for the self-mode startup that was going to be worth billions of dollars. So if you're in the US, you have the option to file for a green card, if you are in valid status, you would have to get a petition and an I-485 filed to maintain status. So if you're from India or China and you don't have an old enough priority date, you might not be eligible for that. But if you have a master's degree and you're from Spain and you're about to go on to your 3rd year of STEM OPT, maybe you could self-petition an EB2 NIW. There's a variety of green card types, but what we're seeing is like minimum, it's going to take 2 years and you have to be ready to start, and it could take decades longer. So this is something when we look at people's options that we consider. But if you're new to Alcorn or this is your first webinar, this is something that we evaluate in our legal launch process, which I'll be talking about. But definitely, if you're looking at this green card option for any employees, it will really put a curb in any international travel. You have to make sure you know country of citizenship, and it can be messy if you're, if you've recently entered on a non-immigrant visa to go for a green card. So those are things we look at individually. In just a couple brief words here before we go to Q&A, as my slides are loading, there we go. So just to talk a little bit about your options, you guys have been through the H-1B lottery, so you know a lot about this already, but I think time is priceless. So all of these options take time. It takes time to gather documents. It takes time to get information. It takes time to prepare everything. That is definitely something to consider to make sure you have enough of it and you're starting early. Many of our visa and green card filings take 6 weeks to 3 months to get everything ready. So we have to be very conscious of expiration dates and deadlines. There are government filing fees. Often these range between $500 and $5,000, depending on what we're doing. If it's a visa or a green card, are there extra fees for the visa type? Are there family members? Is there premium processing? Premium processing is available for most of the options we discussed, which brings the government decision time down to 15 days. As you've also heard, there's some restrictions on who can pay the legal fees for certain visas, specifically for H-1Bs and perms. There are requirements that the employer pay, but in other situations, the beneficiary can pay, and likewise, companies can sponsor things, and in certain situations, individuals can sponsor themselves. So those are things to consider. And we do have a class called Extraordinary Ability Bootcamp. So if you think, okay, I got to get an O1 one day and, free myself from this cycle, or I want to self-petition an EB1A green card or an EB2 national interest waiver green card, we have an online class. It's 15 videos. It's a lot of detailed content based on a ton of RFEs that we've gotten over the years. Not that we get very many, but we just accumulated all of them to put together a really great class. So this discount code for the class will be in the link. It's about $500, and then there's a 20% off coupon that we're happy to offer you. And we also have a program called Legal Launch. And Nadia, can you chat a little bit about what Legal Launch is?
Yeah, sure. So Legal Launch is a great way for you to get your evidence. If you have evidence and you're not sure if it would qualify you for an O1, for example, then we can take a deeper look at all of that documentation and provide you with written feedback on each of the criteria, where we think you stand, and exactly what you can do to qualify and in how long.
Yeah, so it's a great intermediate option. So if you know that you're ready to apply because you I don't know, ran the International Space Station, fine, we'll just accept your case. If you know that you just are a freshman in college and you've had a lemonade stand, okay, go do Extraordinary Ability Bootcamp. And if you're somewhere in between, do Legal Launch, and we'll help you figure out like how far you are from that finish line and what specifically you need to do within your field, right? Because what a fashion designer needs is different than what a AI developer needs, which is different from what an electrical engineer needs. So we'll tailor that to you. Okay, and with that, we have a few minutes. It kind of worked. We saved some time, but we did get through a lot. And thank you so much to Danielle and Nadia and Linda for typing many of the answers to the questions. But let's go through this. Okay, so are there options around starting work for US-based company remotely while you build up an O1? Would it impact the visa application? I can answer this. You only need to deal with immigration law if there's a human who's not a US citizen in the US and working. So if you are physically outside the US from an immigration standpoint, it's completely fine. Now, that being said, the company has to make sure that they're paying you correctly. They might want to consider if they have employment law liability or if it will create some sort of tax thing for them. But you're completely allowed to build up your qualifications for work on a US-based startup remotely for an O1 from an immigration perspective. Okay. Let's take some of these earlier ones about an O1 as well. Somebody wants to know if an operations type role at an accelerator could potentially work for a visa, and if they could position themselves as an investment professional. Yeah, I mean, we do O1s for VCs. We do them for people within companies. Nadia, what do you think? What would it take for an operations professional to potentially qualify for an O1?
I think, well, the thing I want to note is that O1s are really dependent on the exhibits we're submitting or evidence we're submitting. So it could be any role, but then we look at what evidence do you have to back up that you're the best operations person out there. So maybe that's impact you've had on the company. Have you made an impact on the company's bottom line? Were you really involved in fundraising? And then we would have to get creative about what type of evidence you can provide to back all of that information up. Because I will just say it's harder for fields where, you know, you're not getting a lot of press coverage. You might not be named in some of the company's more front-facing.
Yeah, but I would say you should do our legal launch program, and then we can give you like a very specific analysis of this and also brainstorm like, okay, could they interview you in the next newspaper article about the accelerator, or how could we position you? Somebody else isn't a founder and doesn't have an a PhD or an H-1B. They are a software engineer with a high-tech company and a master's degree from the US, and they want to know how to get qualified for an O1.
So again, I think boot camp or our legal launch program. Legal launch is better if you already have some evidence and you're not sure if it will be helpful, but boot camp might be great for someone like that, so they can figure out exactly what steps they can take to qualify.
Thank you. Somebody else had an A visa, so they were a diplomat. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter if you had an A visa or not. We may have to do some things to waive your diplomatic immunities, but if you were chosen by your country to lead trade and investment in the startup space in San Francisco, and you're in your home country newspaper all the time, sounds like you might have a great track record. So yeah, that could work for legal launch. What are your thoughts on CPT, Linda?
I mean, I think for some folks it can work. There are restrictions with each school in terms of when you can actually work in CPT status. So if someone's sort of running out of time, they weren't selected in the lottery, they want to go back to school. Some schools will let you work in CPT status the first semester, but the majority of them will require you to be a full-time student for a semester. So it's important to investigate those schools, but also use the resources of your current school's DSO just to make sure that they're an accredited school, that they are going to be able to issue that CPT to you if that's one of your goals. It's not an ideal setup, but it's a backup.
You just have to take personal responsibility for ensuring that it's a compliant program, because the government built, I guess it's called a honey trap, but they essentially tricked all these international students into signing up for a fake school that didn't meet the requirements, and then they got deported. So just be very careful. Yeah. Okay, to apply for a green card via a company, do we have to be in dual intent status, or F1 CPT works too? If a company wants to sponsor somebody in F1 CPT for a green card, then we have to look at when you got your visa, when you entered the United States, how frequently you've traveled, how long has it been since your last entry, your future trips that you plan. Some people on TN and F1 still end up with green cards, but we have to be very cautious that we're following all the rules about how and when they qualify. There's an arts person with cinema, photography, and now they're a psychotherapist. Could they do an O1? They might be able to do an O1B, but we have to tie their field of extraordinary ability to their future work. So I don't know if you want to continue doing cinema related to your psychotherapy practice or something. Maybe we can tie it in. I don't know. We can be creative. What type of green card is fastest? The one you qualify for. I guess EB1A with 15-day premium processing if you have a current priority date, and then a second runner-up would be EB2 NIW, which has a 45-day premium processing. But the adjustment of status is going to take 1.5 years anyway, so it kind of doesn't matter which of those you get. And we are out of time. That's it. Thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate you listening to today's webinar. You will all get the recording. If you have more questions, hello@alcorn.law, email us. We will link you to our appropriate questionnaire. If you're already our client, please work with your respective attorney, Linda or Nadia, to discuss any follow-up options or questions you have about your beneficiaries or yourself personally. And Danielle, a big thank you to you as well today for being here and sharing all these details about Open Avenues Foundation. So thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, everybody.